Last time on the Skip and Josh podcast.
So that's where it gets tricky. You have to have someone from the Habs. So it's either Price or...
Well, as you said, Gallagher,
right?
Unless there's a defenseman that's having a good season on the team.
There isn't.
So then...
What, are you going to put Joe Morrow?
I hope not.
The Skip and Josh podcast is on now.
Hello.
Skippy.
Hey, what's up? Good morning.
Good morning. It's early. It's not that early, but I'm tired.
Yeah, me too. I've been under the weather and apologizing in advance to the listeners. And my voice is shaky and I lost my voice a few days ago, so it's just coming back. So.
Did you go away again?
Yeah. I did.
You go away every week. You're never in town.
I was in New York Tuesday, Wednesday this week. I had such a miserable travel experience.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, we won't get into that. Well, there was a centimeter of snow in New York, so basically every flight was delayed.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
Yeah. So my flight coming home was delayed by over 2 hours. It wasn't fun.
That's not fun.
And that's when I really felt that I was getting sick. You know when you feel like you're getting sick, and I'm just sitting in the airport waiting to get on the plane.
A lot of germs in the airport. A lot of germs on airplanes.
There is. And if anybody would know that, it would be you, right?
Yes, it would be me. I would know about it.
So we did say that we were going to do listener mail every week.
We're the only show presently in production that cares enough about you, the North American home viewer, to answer our viewer mail on the air.
After last week's episode, I was expecting an email. I was expecting an email from Gary Bettman or Bill Daly or some kind of NHL lawyer.
Send lawyers guns and money.
Pointing out that we called the NHL All-Star Game the All-Star Game instead of NHL All-Star.
I'm the one who pointed this out to you.
Well, last year. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And as I was editing last week's episode, I was thinking to myself, man, we keep calling it the All-Star Game. We already know that they call it All-Star, but it just goes to show how stupid that name is, right? No one calls it that. Everyone calls it the All-Star Game. Mm-hmm. But then sure enough, on TV and stuff, when I was watching sports this week, I saw the logo, All-Star. It's clear as day. All-Star. All-Star 2018. It's there, right?
Yeah.
So while we did not get an email from Gary Bettman, we did get an email from Jamie from Côte Saint Luc here in Montreal, who pointed out exactly that we call we are grammatically incorrect when we're referring to the NHL All-Star Game. So from now on, we are going to make an effort to call it All-Star 2018.
No, I can't do that. I'm going to say game all the time. I refuse. I refuse to eliminate that word because it's not grammatically correct. I don't care what the NHL says.
It really is the silliest thing in the world that they name it this. And the NBA has the same thing, right? I saw the logo.
Yeah.
All-Star 2018. Guys, come on. Everyone calls it the All-Star Game. We know what it's called. Why are you making up new words,
I just sent you an image to your phone that you could post on our site that demonstrates the incorrectness that people are using.
Right. So that's our listener mail for the week.
Okay. So the big news this week, of course.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you heard this. I found this out on Monday. I put it at the top of my list of things I wanted to talk about. Mm-hmm. And then the story gained steam throughout the week.
Oh.
Until it was big news by Friday, and it's not what you think.
It really is?
No, it's not what you think. So I didn't know this, but months ago, Aaron Rodgers and Olivia Munn broke up.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know this.
I did know this, yeah.
And so now apparently he's dating Danica Patrick.
This is huge news, right? They're the number one power couple now. Who's a bigger power couple than them?
But if you're asking me,
he's downgraded.
100. Look what I wrote. Can you see my phone?
To me, he has downgraded. 100% he's downgraded.
Olivia Munn to Danica Patrick?
Yeah, no, that's not
That's a downgrade.
100%. Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers is like, there's Tom Brady, there's Derek Jeter, and then there's like Aaron Rodgers. Who else is there? You should be able to get any girl you want. What's with Danica Patrick?
I don't know. Maybe he likes the extreme sports aspect of the whole thing.
Extreme. She's a race car driver.
She's a risk taker.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah. So that's your big story of the week, Danica Patrick.
That's huge. We should have started the show with that. That should have been our top story. Not this viewer mail from Jamie in Côte St. Luc.
Do you want to? There's two things that I really wanted to talk about. Well, obviously the NFL, I think, is like dominating the sports scene as it should this time of year, right? I mean, as it should be. It's the playoffs, and we have the championship games, the conference championship games going on tomorrow. Do you have any thoughts on that ridiculous play by Marcus Williams of the Saints?
So it's rare. It's rare these days that I watch sports and like that I'm impressed or amazed by anything, because I've seen pretty much everything at this point in my life.
Yeah.
But I was literally watching that game live, and I literally said out loud at the top of my lungs 3 times, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God." Like I could not believe what was happening.
I had the opposite reaction in that because I don't care about either team, I have no rooting interest for either team at all. I watched the play and I was like, oh, wow. Like I said it to myself, like, oh my God, obviously it's pretty crazy what happened. But like, I didn't jump up and down. I wasn't like freaking out. And Matthew was sitting next to me on the couch. I'm like, what's going on? What just happened? And his mouth was like wide open. He was like, oh my God, what just happened? Like, do you know any hardcore Saints fans or?
I think friend of the show, Neil, used to be a big Saints fan. I don't know if he still is, because now I think he's a Patriots fan.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know any huge Saints fans. I mean, I know Matthew.
But I know a hardcore Vikings fan.
Oh yeah, we know a hardcore Vikings family. No, isn't the whole family a Vikings fan?
Yes.
The Chaim crew there.
Yes, all of them.
Yeah. So I mean, they're obviously very happy. But like, God, if you're a Saints fan, it's like. You must have been walking around this whole week kind of in a fog, in a way like, how the hell did we lose that game? Like it's still like the wrong team's in the championship game now. The Saints should be in the championship game now.
Minnesota led the game most of the game.
No, yes,
the Saints only led for like 2 minutes.
Yeah. Well, the lead changed 3 times there in the last 2 minutes, right?
Right. I don't know that the wrong team is there, and I don't know that it even makes a difference. Look, they won the game.
Yeah.
That was the most bonehead play by, was it Marcus Williams? Is that his name?
So, look, Marcus Williams is a rookie, right? I didn't know about him really before the game. I knew about him because he had an interception in that game. And I was like, oh, good. This guy's like rookie, gets a pick, right? Good for him. I watched the play about 50 times from all the different angles that they've shown us, right? And I still don't know what he was trying to do.
It makes no sense.
He's literally diving at the air. Like he's diving. He's going for like a diving tackle. But he actually ducks.
Like if he just stands upright, then Diggs's legs would have hit him in the head or something.
Yeah.
And that would have slowed down Diggs. Or maybe even brought him down. But because he ducks, Diggs doesn't even touch him.
Right.
And in the process, he actually knocked down his own teammate.
He knocked down the other guy, right? Like, when I watch it, the only explanation I could have, like, right after the game, there was like, oh, he was going to tackle him, but he was worried about a pass interference call, so he held up. I don't think that's what it is at all. I think he was going for, like, the diving tackle, so to speak, and Diggs jumped up in the air to make the catch, and in the course of that, like, he just missed. And then the next thing you know, Diggs comes down with the ball, and that's it. Now, the best thing about that whole play is Stephon Diggs is still celebrating in the end zone right now.
Yes, he is.
He's going to be late for the game tomorrow because he's still celebrating in the end zone right now.
Well, he's in Minnesota, and the game's in Philadelphia.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He's still there, celebrating in Minnesota. He's going to get the latest flight possible to get to Philadelphia.
He's posing, is what he's doing.
Unreal. Like, the celebration was intense.
So
as it should be. Like, don't get me wrong.
A few things. I was trying to understand what Marcus Williams was doing. Like, let's say it's the third quarter and not the fourth quarter. Okay, so it's not the end of the game, and let's say the Saints are behind. Let's just say, and so let's say Marcus Williams is trying to be a hero. He wants to intercept the pass and take it back for a pick six.
Right.
let's say that's what's going on in his head. But even if that was the case, then he would have had to jump up to get the ball, not duck underneath.
Yeah.
So even if that was the case, it still doesn't make sense to me what he was doing.
No. He definitely wasn't making a play on the ball. So if he's not making a play on the ball, then he's making a play on the player, right? You either go for the ball or you go for the tackle. So he's obviously going for the tackle, but that's like, he missed him by 5 feet.
All you have to do is just stand there, wait till he catches the ball, wait
And
till he
tackle him.
lands, and
Yeah.
tackle him.
Now, the worst case scenario, if he tackles him, the worst case scenario
What's the worst case
for him,
scenario?
for the Vikings, is he tackles him and he goes out of bounds in the tackle. Like, he's able to get out of bounds.
Okay,
Like,
fine.
Right?
But that's better than what happened.
Right. That's the worst case
Because
scenario.
that's still
is
a long field goal.
50-yard field goal is like the worst case scenario for the Saints, right?
Right.
And the best case scenario is you tackle him in bounds, game's over, right? So, God, just, if you're a Saints fan out there, I feel for you because that's a really, really lousy way to lose a game. It's when you lose a game and you're basically in shock, right? Like, you're in shock. That's tough, right? That's really tough.
I have a few other things I want to mention about that game
Oh, God, yeah.
before we go on to other things. First of all, did you see in the first half when the Vikings scored a touchdown and they did that celebration where they're all like statues?
Yeah.
Is that like sort of mimicking video games? Because that's what they look like on video games. Like they sort of look like this.
I don't know if that's what it is. I think there was at one point last year this kind of freeze game going on where, like, I saw it in soccer. The guys would freeze. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't know what they're trying to do.
Because when I saw it, I'm like, oh, this looks like a video game. Because the way he was standing, it looked like a video game.
Right. Maybe. We have to look that up. I don't know. Did you get an explanation on it? Or
No,
not
I
really?
didn't.
No.
Our research team has been slow this week.
Right.
The other thing, not necessarily about that game, but have you heard all the like negative stuff Mike Zimmer has said about Case Keenum all season long? His own
mental.
quarterback?
It's mental. Honestly,
How do you say that about your own quarterback?
he's been quiet the last few weeks though.
Fine,
Right,
but during the
right.
season, he's like, this guy has a horseshoe up his you-know-what.
Yeah.
Like, how do you
Look,
say that?
I like Mike Zimmer as a coach. I think he's a very good coach. Clearly, he's getting results because the Vikings were a very unheralded team at the start of the year. They lost their first-string quarterback, their second-string quarterback. They're on to their third-string quarterback, and they were one of the best teams in the league. So obviously, he's doing something. But he's an idiot. Like he's an asshole, right? Like he's not he's a jerk, right?
I mean, how does like no one call him out on this?
If Case Keenum at any point in the season, in the last, let's say the last 2 months, 8 weeks, right? If he would have thrown 2 interceptions in any game, he would have replaced him. He was waiting. I know it's like a cliche. He's waiting for the other shoe to drop. He's waiting for an excuse to replace him. And you have to give Case Keenum a lot of credit because he never gave him the excuse. He never gave him the reason to bench him.
I mean, I understand how these two people are in the same locker room. I don't know how they're on the same plane on flights to road games. I don't get it. Like in meetings, how do they look at each other? I don't get it.
He probably hardly has any. I think we underestimate how much interaction the head coach has with some of the players. Keenum's probably in most of the meetings with the quarterback coaches and the offensive coordinator. So I don't know, but it is a really, really weird situation. There's no doubt about it. Speaking of weird situations, did you see Tom Brady's press conference yesterday?
I saw it, but I didn't hear it.
It's the best thing I ever saw.
Like they
was
showed it.
like-
They showed it on PTI, but without the audio.
He took a page right out of Belichick's book. And the thing is, the Patriots are so like devious, right? Mm-hmm. That you don't know half the stuff that they do. Is it legit? Are they playing mind games? Like, what's going on here?
We're playing those mind games together.
What's the motivation behind it? So Brady shows up with like a hat on, like a winter hat, and gloves. Red gloves. They're like not winter gloves. They're like Under Armour gloves, like what receivers would wear. And everybody knows that he didn't practice this week because he had a hand injury. Apparently, he hit his finger on a helmet of one of the players. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of rumors that he had like stitches on his hand, like a Kurt Schilling situation, like the bloody sock,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So he gets up there and he comes up to the press conference. If you're Tom Brady and you have an injured hand, first of all, I didn't see like the other quarterbacks doing press conferences this week. Maybe I missed it, but I didn't see Nick Foles doing a press conference, and I didn't see Blake Bortles doing a press conference, or Case Keenum.
I'm sure they all did.
Yeah, maybe. So Brady comes out there and he's like, I'm not going to answer any questions about my hand. Okay, so then you might as well just go back to the locker room because no one wants to talk to you.
That's why those press conferences are all a waste of time. No one ever answers anything important.
Right. So the thing is, the press are not stupid. They're there to do their job. So even when you say you're not gonna ask questions about the hand, they're still gonna ask the questions. So they're like, "Are you playing this week?" And he's like, "Well, yeah." Well, did you see when they asked Belichick, "Is Brady playing this week?" They asked Belichick was the best. They asked Belichick, "Is Brady playing this week?" He's like, "Well, we sent an injury report yesterday." Like, that's it. You already know. It says probable, questionable, like whatever it is,
There's no
right?
point in asking any of those guys questions. There's no point.
So they ask him like 5 questions. Brady dodges all of them, and then at the end, there's a female reporter that asks like, "I see you're wearing gloves today. Like, why are you wearing gloves?" And he's like, "I don't know. I've worn gloves. I've worn these before." Like, no, you haven't. Like, you clearly have not come to a press conference with these bright red Under Armour gloves on. There's no way you've done that, So, like, it was just the whole thing reeks of Patriots. Like, this is what they do. Right?
You've heard the theory that he's not injured at all, and this is just to screw with the Jaguars, and now they have to prepare for Hoyer also.
Yeah,
and
preparing for Hoyer.
And he's
that's tough.
he's gonna start, and he's gonna throw for 700 yards and throw 15 touchdowns.
Look, if Brady throws for like 5 touchdowns, it's not going to surprise me at all.
No, it shouldn't.
That's what
It
Brady
shouldn't
does,
surprise
right?
you.
It shouldn't surprise anybody.
Yeah.
So, do you want to just do like little predictions for the games, or
No, actually, I don't. To be honest,
you don't?
No.
Okay. Do you want to say who you're rooting for?
Well, I always want the Patriots to lose.
Okay, so Jaguars.
Yeah,
You want the Jaguars in the Super Bowl.
I just want anyone but the Patriots in the Super Bowl. I don't even care who it is, as long as it's not the Patriots. Because then I'm going to have to hear about Tom Brady and Bill Belichick and Rob Gronkowski for the next 2 weeks every freaking year. How many years in a row am I going to have to hear that?
Well, they've been in the championship game 7 years in a row, I think.
It's just annoying. I'm done with it. I'm fed up with it.
Now, we all know where I stand on the Eagles. Clearly, I'm cheering for the Eagles.
Of course.
What about you?
I mean, other than the office pool that I'm in, I don't really care.
Okay.
So, I mean...
so you should cheer for the Eagles just to support me and
Well,
Matthew.
I picked the Eagles because they're playing at home. I honestly think both teams are relatively equal.
Yeah.
And the only slight edge is to the Eagles only because it's in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And it's an outdoor game, and the Vikings usually play indoors now. So that's why I picked the Eagles. But really, that game's a toss-up.
Okay, I screenshotted this week because I wanted to read it exactly out loud because I would never be able to remember it. Mm-hmm. It's this whole Case Keenum, Nick Foles connection.
I didn't know there was a connection.
Eagles traded Nick Foles to the Rams for Sam Bradford.
I remember that.
Foles lost his job in St. Louis, right?
Mm-hmm.
Case Keenum took over.
In St. Louis?
Case Keenum replaced Foles
okay.
at one point. Eagles draft Carson Wentz, and then they trade Bradford to Minnesota. Vikings sign Keenum, who replaces Bradford.
Right.
Foles comes back to Philadelphia, replaces Wentz, and now it's Foles versus Keenum.
That's interesting.
So that's like we've come full circle.
We really have, actually. That's amazing.
It would have been amazing. Like in Las Vegas, you can bet pretty much on anything. But I know in England, you can go to these like Ladbrokes or William Hill, like, these places, Paddy Power, like they're like legal sports betting. And you can usually like invent your own thing, and they'll give you they'll give you like a line on it. They'll give you a 2-1, 4-1. Like, they'll give you what the payout is, right?
Yeah.
If you would have went at the beginning of the year and said the last 4 quarterbacks in the NFL playoffs are going to be Case Keenum, Nick Foles, Blake Bortles, and Tom Brady,
You would have made a lot of money.
that is just crazy.
It is nuts. Completely nuts.
Yeah. So, the only thing for me that, as an Eagles fan, that really is hopeful is, yes, Carson Wentz went down, and that should have been the end of the season. But the team was resilient, and they maintained their home field advantage. They made sure, even without Wentz, that they got that home field throughout the playoffs. And now, with like, you know, I'm not scared of Case Keenum and Blake Bortles. You know what I mean? Like, I'm still have a lot of faith in the Eagles.
Good. You should.
That's all I have to say about the NFL. I mean, I know we could go on and we can dissect all the minutiae of last week, you know, but
We can't because I have a lot of things I want to talk about actually.
Okay.
That have nothing to do with football.
do you have a what bugs me? Because I have one.
Things that bug me?
No, I don't have a what bugs me. Well, I guess kind of, but not really.
This is more angry. I'm more angry about this. We're going to have to get our lawyers on this as well.
Okay. Our legal team.
Yeah. You sent me a screenshot this week.
I don't even remember what I sent you.
TSN is unveiling a new segment
Oh
called
my-
with Ray Ferraro called What's Bugging Ray.
We've been doing this for over a year.
We unveiled the What Bugs Me segment in November 2017.
Yes.
So over a year ago. And now TSN trying to steal our bit. I'm not cool, TSN, not cool at all.
Yeah.
And the thing
Absolutely.
is, Ray Ferraro, he's too dry, right? What makes the What Bugs Me segment good is that you're funny. Well, you're like, as one of our listeners once described this to me, you're so serious that it's funny.
Right. Because I'm
Right?
legitimately angry.
I know, but like people that don't know you don't understand, are you joking or are you serious?
Right.
Right? And sometimes I don't know either. but just to say that I'm not happy with this What's Bugging Ray segment that they're going to unveil, and I hope it's a complete
It's
flop.
actually, it's already unveiled. They already did it.
Well, I'm not watching it.
No, I didn't watch it either, but I'm just
What
saying.
kind of things are bugging Ray Ferraro?
I don't know, like the offside rule in the NHL or something. I don't even remember what it was. And this could have been going on for a while. I just noticed it this week. I don't know how
I
long it's been
never-
going on.
I never saw it before, so and I have no intention of watching it.
Okay. So
That ends the What Bugs Me segment.
well, I mean, this you could sort of put this under the what's bugging me thing, although it doesn't really bug me, but I'm sure it bugs people.
Oh.
And it's that the Pittsburgh Pirates have become the Montreal Expos.
Oh.
Like, if I'm a Pirates fan, I'm losing it right now. Trading Andrew McCutchen, was it Garrett Cole? Is that his name? The
Yeah,
pitcher?
yeah.
Like, they've just basically, they're giving everyone away.
And they gave up because, you know, I don't think that NL Central is. I mean, look, obviously the Cubs are really good, but
And the Cardinals
Pirates,
are good too.
Pirates are competitive. Like, I don't know. I followed this guy on Twitter. Mm-hmm. He's a Pittsburgh sports guy. Started following him because of the Steelers. His name is his Twitter name is Joey Bag of Donuts.
Is that like
And
Nelson
he-
Sack of Tomatoes?
Yeah. He is livid with the Pirates. Like he's just like telling people like boycott the team and cancel your season tickets, demand answers from the sales team of the Pirates. He's not in a good place right now. So
Well, in fairness to the ticket sales department, they have no say in this.
no, but the only way you as a fan, and this goes beyond the Pirates. Like the Pirates could do whatever they want. I don't care about the Pirates. But you as a fan have only one way to speak when you are unhappy, and that is with your dollars. That is with your wallet. By not buying merchandise, by not buying tickets, by not watching, or you know, like that's the only way you can voice your displeasure, right?
Absolutely. So I have some bad news for you.
Yeah. Habs are eliminated.
We'll get to hockey in a minute. This is worse than that.
Oh.
Actually, for me, it's really bad. You might not even care. Mm-hmm. But this could also be under what bugs me. I happen to be doing some research on March Madness, this upcoming tournament in 2 months.
Oh. Usually we don't get into March Madness till after the Super Bowl. You're doing your research ahead
Well,
of time.
I wanted to know some dates. I wanted to know some venues, so
Yeah.
I looked some stuff up.
Yeah.
And I found out what I was looking for. But I also happened to find out something that I was not expecting to see. So this year, for the first time, the selection show is only going to be on TBS,
Oh.
not on CBS, apparently.
But that's not going to affect us because TSN will carry it.
I don't know if they will.
Someone will. I bet. Well, the selection show. Yeah,
I don't
it's
know
dicey.
if they will.
It's dicey. I have right now hope that like TSN would carry it since they're like carrier of like the March Madness, right? And they're gonna advertise the hell out of it.
Right.
So I'm hoping that they would carry the selection show. But you're right. Like our friend Tony Kornheiser says, it's 50-50.
It is.
Either they will or they won't.
So I don't understand why CBS would do such a thing and not broadcast it, not
Well, you
air
know
it.
the answer. It's money. TBS probably they paid a boatload of money to be an equal partner in the March Madness with CBS and the NCAA, you know? So
Anyway, it sucks for us here in Canada.
the selection show, I mean, honestly, of anything in sports that you could miss this year, that's the one thing you could miss.
No, I
Because
love the
in a half
selection
an hour
show.
later, you're going to know the whole thing anyways.
I know, but it's fun to watch the reaction of the players.
Yeah,
it's
that's
fun
true.
as they unveil it one team at a time.
Yeah.
It's something I look forward to. I set my PVR every year.
Okay.
That's why I knew it wouldn't bother you as much as it bothered me. Couple other things. So Allen Iverson's nickname was the answer, right?
Yes, it was.
And that's, I'm assuming, because he's the answer to all the problems. Like you need a 3-pointer, he'll do that for you. You need him to drive to the basket, he'll do that for you. Whatever you needed, he was the answer, right?
Or I always took it as like the Sixers were like going nowhere and then they drafted him and now he's the answer to their problems, you know?
Okay, right. So I think we need to bring back that nickname for someone else.
Who's that?
Jacob De La Rose.
Wait a minute. Jacob De La Rose, because he's the answer to the Habs questions?
He's the answer to the Habs problem at center.
Yeah, sure, of course he is. Yeah.
Because if I'm not mistaken, he was on the number 1 line at center this week.
He was.
So clearly he's the
player,
answer.
A player that, you know, has never scored more than like 1 or 2 goals in the NHL, right? Who every time they give him a chance, he has no offensive ability whatsoever. So yeah, if that's the state of the Habs, like, look, I think, okay, we're gonna get into the NHL a bit.
Yeah, I have a few NHL tidbits.
I just joked that the Habs season's over, and the problem is, someone wrote on Twitter like this week, like, are the Habs gonna be buyers or sellers, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, obviously they're gonna be sellers. The whole problem with the organization is that everybody in the world knows they should be sellers, except the organization is not sure. And that is the problem.
Actually, I think they are sure. They're sure
Well-
that they should be buyers every year. That's the problem.
That's the problem.
That
but
is
they're
the
going to
problem.
be too far behind to be buyers, honestly.
You ask them, they'll tell you they're not too far behind.
Oh, God.
I agree with you, but
I mean,
because then if they admit that they're sellers, then Bergevin's admitting that he hasn't done a good job, and then he's next to go.
he's next to go, yeah. Yeah. Look, I don't really want to talk about the Habs because they suck. They're very frustrating. Like, it's just their team's kind of going nowhere. So there's not really much point of talking about them. If we want to talk NHL, you know, let's talk about the Vegas Golden Knights. Let's talk about the Tampa Bay Lightning. Let's talk about the Winnipeg Jets.
One other little tidbit about the Habs,
Yeah.
and then we can move on. It's only like 30 seconds. So tonight, the Canadians are playing the Bruins.
Yeah.
Just FYI for everyone out there, this will be the 3rd time the Canadians are playing the Bruins in a span of 8 days.
Yeah, I know. They hadn't played them for the whole year yet. And then all of a sudden, well, the bye week is part of that problem.
So anyway, just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, so they lost 1 game in overtime. They lost 1 game straight out in regulation. And tonight, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I didn't even, the Habs beat the Washington last night. I didn't even know they were playing.
They've been playing a lot of Friday games for some reason.
That's how much interest I've lost in, you know, what's going on with the Habs, right?
So, sticking with hockey,
Yeah.
so I found out something this week that I was stunned to find out. So, you heard that Andrew Cogliano got suspended for 2 games, right? For an
Yeah.
illegal hit.
Yeah, his streak of consecutive games ended.
Right, at 830 or something like that.
Yeah.
I am stunned that a player like Andrew Cogliano, who, by the way, has in his career 352 points in 830 games, how has he played 830 consecutive games? How has this guy not been a healthy scratch like at least a dozen times in his career? I don't get that. He is slightly better than Alish Hemsky, I think, this guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the only thing is he's durable, so he's a body, and they put him in. But yeah, you're right. He's not a great player, so you wonder like how he got this streak going.
Exactly.
But then again, who has the record for consecutive games played? Is it still Doug Jarvis? Doug Jarvis at least was like a dominant faceoff man and a defensive center, right? So like there's a reason to have him in the game, right?
True.
But Cogliano doesn't really. He's not like a first liner. He's not. Yeah, I get your point there. Yeah.
I mean, he's a good face-off guy. I don't know. He was picked in the first round, 25th overall, back in 2005.
I remember when he burst on the scene. He was supposed to be this dynamic offensive player with tons of speed, but he's been a good NHL player. But yeah, you're right. The streak, not sure.
Now, you could be right. I just Googled it, and I think Doug Jarvis still does hold the record with 964 games.
There you go.
I don't think he actually ever missed a game in his career, which is very impressive.
So that's it. He just, when the streak ended is when he retired.
Yeah, exactly.
I wanted to say something that's NHL related.
Okay, go ahead.
Very sad news yesterday. I don't know if you heard that Red Fisher passed away.
I did hear that, actually, and it is very sad. I remember reading his Saturday columns every Saturday morning when the newspaper would actually come. This is at a time when I actually read the newspaper.
Yeah. There's a lot of American listeners to our show who are probably saying, who is Red Fisher? Many Canadian listeners, if you're not in the Montreal area, might be asking who is Red Fisher, although he was on Hockey Night in Canada, I think, at a certain point in the 70s, and people sort of know who he is. But this is a man who covered the Montreal Canadiens from 1955 until like 2 years ago or 5 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Basically, if you've heard of Vin Scully in baseball, this is the equivalent. Although Vin Scully was the play-by-play man, or was on the radio and television, Red Fisher was a newspaper columnist for the Montreal Star and then the Gazette for most of our lives. It's incredible. I read some stuff on him yesterday. He covered 17 out of the 24 Montreal Canadiens Stanley Cup teams.
That's amazing.
Nuts. His first game that he ever covered was the Richard Riot.
That's like the luckiest thing ever.
Ridiculous. And the tributes I read on Twitter yesterday from all the hockey, journalism world is just incredible. Like how much, respect this man had among the journalism world. And I read the most interesting quote yesterday. I'm going to elaborate on it, but like the gist of it is, it was much shorter, but my take on it is like, so we often talk about like who's the best at this, who's the best at that, who's the best at this. So we say like, who's the best quarterback ever, right? So like some people say Tom Brady, right? I say Joe Montana, but there's a debate, right? Who's the best basketball player in history? We talked about this last year. LeBron now. Is LeBron in the conversation? Is he better than Michael Jordan, right? There's a debate, right? Who's the best hockey player of all time? Me and you both agree that it's Gretzky, but
right.
There are many people that say Mario Lemieux. There's some people that say Bobby Orr. So that's also a little bit of the debate. But if you say who is the greatest hockey writer of all time, there is no debate. He is on his own number one, and everyone else is bowing down to him. That's Red Fisher, right? So, yeah, those Saturday morning columns in the Gazette were amazing, right?
Yes, they were. In fact, when I was not living in Montreal and before the days of the internet, I'd ask my mom to cut them out and mail them to me. Snail mail.
Snail mail.
Yes.
You get the Red Fisher columns
yes.
Clipped out of the newspaper and sent to you.
Yes.
That's amazing.
It was great.
My God,
that's how much I liked reading them.
It's so weird. Like Michael Farber wrote, like, could you imagine, like Red Fisher started on the Canadiens, like in a time where, he probably had to bring his typewriter on the train with him, right? He was with the team on the train, traveling from city to city, probably with his typewriter with him on the train. And now, like, people tweet from games, right? So, like how the league has changed, how the world has changed.
Well, actually, he probably had a pad and a pen.
A pad and a pen, yeah, 100%. I mean, he goes back to the time where he was like embedded with the team. He traveled with the team on the same train as the players, right? And they talked about how the players had so much trust in him because he kind of kept their secrets, you know? Like, they knew that they could trust him because, you know, he wasn't going to start writing about all kinds of stuff that maybe other newspapers and journalists would have. And then the other amazing thing is that, you know, he's famous for, like, not talking to rookies.
I read that,
Right?
yes.
You know, like, if you're a rookie, like, he would not talk to you, you know? Like, earn your stripes, maybe next year I'll talk to you. So there's an interesting story, like, Alain Vigneault was hired as the Canadiens head coach. This is, like, in the 90s, right? Mm-hmm. And he was in his 30s. He was young, right, Alain Vigneault? And so it's during the off season. He calls Red Fisher and he's like, "Hi, Mr. Fisher, Alain Vigneault. You know, I'm the new coach of the Canadiens, as you know. I know you have a policy of not talking to rookies," because he was a rookie coach. Because I know you have a policy of not talking to rookies, but you know, I'm hoping we can sit down and maybe chat for a coffee or lunch or something at some point before the season starts. And Red Fisher just said, "I don't think so," and hung up on him.
That's hilarious. That's great.
So it's just amazing. Like, some of the stories are just amazing. So
The other thing is, when he started in the 50s and in the 60s and in the 70s and even in the 80s partly, like, when you would interview a player or coach, they'd actually say something.
Yeah.
Now, when you interview a player or coach today, they don't say anything.
yeah. Well, there was a clip that, I mean, if anybody out there, actually, I'll post it on our website. Michael Farber wrote a eulogy to Red Fisher, which I'm pretty sure is in the Gazette and all online. And it's really long, but really interesting because it chronicles his whole career. So he talks about that very thing, how at one point in the 90s, he was interviewing Mark Recchi. And Recchi was basically just saying, like, standard athlete talk, you know, blah, 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 we're going to give 110%, and then it's all cliches. And Red Fisher walked away mumbling something like, you know, at least give me something, you know, speak honestly. And then and Recchi chased after him, like, half naked in the dressing room, saying, Red, what do you want me to say? What do you want me to say? Like, anyways, I'll send you the article. I'll also post it. It's definitely worth reading, the Michael Farber's eulogy.
Okay. I look forward to reading it.
So rest in peace, Red Fisher. We'll
Yes.
definitely miss you. It's like different times have changed, you know, but you know, there's no substitute for, you know, hard work and dedication and just being good at what you do, just like really taking pride in what you do, you know. So that's how I'll remember him. I have a couple shout outs.
Okay.
So, but before I do the shout outs, we started something a little bit in December, like subscribe, unsubscribe. Have you subscribed to any new podcasts?
Not in 2018. I haven't.
No?
No.
I did subscribe to a new podcast yesterday. Mm-hmm. Now, full disclosure, I don't know if I'm going to listen to it. I just subscribed to it because, so you remember Peter Sankoff?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a guy that I was like best friends with when I was in grade 5, grade 6. And, you know, we remained friends like into our 20s, but then he moved away. So did you know he's a law professor?
I think you mentioned that.
Yeah, so he's been a law professor at many universities. He's back in Canada now, in Edmonton. And he is basically the foremost authority on animal rights in Canada. He knows more about animal law probably than anybody in the world, you know?
Okay.
So anyways, he started a podcast with a colleague of his called Paw and Order.
That's hilarious. That is actually funny.
Yeah, it's basically Canadian animal law simplified, you know, and they discuss issues about animal law. So, I mean, I know this is not the same audience as our show. We're talking about sports, something that's maybe important to us, but like really shouldn't be, you know, with distraction, entertainment, whatever. But if you're interested in animal law, check out the Paw and Order podcast.
Okay.
Yeah, I just thought that was interesting. I saw that yesterday. I want to shout out to a couple of people. Derek from Dollar Des Ormeaux, right here, actually on the same street as me here.
Careful what you say. He's probably ironing right now. We don't want him to have a mishap.
I was at a party last night with Derek. We were invited to the same get together. He texts me before. I'm going to read you the text. He texted me before, and he's like, hey, what are you wearing to this shindig tonight? And I said, wow, Derek, very personal question. And I told him what I'm wearing. And he's like, you think I can get away with jeans? I said, yeah, I think you can. I don't think it's going to be very, very formal. And then he writes, okay, and this better not end up on the podcast.
Well,
So-
it just did.
It just did. But anyways, thank you for listening, Derek. That's it. That's all my shout outs.
I have one shout out. Shout out to an avid listener of our show, Iona Monk in Vancouver.
Oh, we've been waiting to shout out Iona for a while. I keep forgetting.
Yes, so Iona and her friend Pam have launched their podcast.
Oh, I can't wait. What is
Which-
it? I'm subscribing right now.
It's called Relationship Dish. And basically, they talk about relationships. Mm-hmm. I think they talk about their own relationships, but they also talk about other people's relationships. I have not been able to listen to the show yet because it's only available on iTunes and I don't have an iPhone.
Right. I've got it right here. Relationshipdish.com. I'm going to give this a subscribe. I'll let you know how I feel about it next week.
Okay. So, about the show, in case you want a little quick synopsis,
Yeah.
they release every Wednesday and they teach strategies for turning those frustrations into opportunities for connection. By the way, Iona, she's a registered clinical counselor. She has an MA,
Okay.
in case you were not aware. It's really, again, not the same subject matter that we talk about,
Not
but
at all.
still a podcast that you might enjoy.
Yeah, sounds great. I'm excited about it. Very good. Thanks for bringing that up.
All right.
Before we sign off, remember you can listen and subscribe to new unarchived episodes of the Skip and Josh podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play. I always tell you that I use Overcast, which is a great podcast app. If you listen through Apple Podcasts, please give us a review. Now, I've come to realize that we're asking people to subscribe, which is great. But chances are, if they're listening, they may have subscribed already. So I'd like to ask everybody who is subscribed to just please tell a friend. Tell everybody who listens, just please tell one friend about the Skip and Josh podcast, how much you like it. And, hopefully we can spread the word, that way. Again, we're going to try to do listener mail every week. So if you have anything you want to say to us, skipandjoshshow@gmail.com, or I'm on Twitter about every 45 seconds at skipandjosh, or by liking and following our Facebook page. And just go to skipandjosh.com and you can get all the links to subscribe and how to contact us and everything.
Very cool. Thank
Okay.
you.
Talk to you next week.
All right. Have a great week.
The Skip and Josh podcast is over now. Don't worry, there'll be another episode soon.